Today we'll be taking our first look at the Tier 8 Premium IJN battleship Iwami, which is the reward for the ongoing campaign of April 2023, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't quite made my mind up on this ship. I don't know whether I like it, whether I think it's just okay, or actually I do know that I don't think it's subpar. In fact, if we want to compare it to some of the other Tier 8 battleship premiums we've gotten in the past as campaign rewards, well, we have quite the selection to take a look at. It includes both the Musashi, the Republique, and of course the Pommern. And if I had to rate the Iwami alongside of those, well, I would say to you that the Pommern is definitely not worth getting in any way. The Musashi and the Republique are both quite good, and I guess the Iwami falls somewhere in the middle. It's a decent battleship. I don't think it's going to be winning any awards for best Tier 8 premium battleship in the game, but it can certainly get the job done, and there are some definitely good things about it, starting with, actually, the accuracy, which I expect a lot of people are going to end up complaining about. I think the patch notes described the accuracy of the Iwami as, quote, pinpoint accuracy, and you will see some of that. You saw some of it there against the Torpedoes, doing 17,000 damage to his superstructure. You might see less of it here against the Amagi, who's 15 kilometers away in broadside, or, you might see quite a bit. There's a Citadel. These guns do have pinpoint accuracy, sometimes. Just not consistently, not all the time. In fact, they remind me of pretty much every Japanese battleship guns in this game, especially the Yamatos. You shoot them, and sometimes you're shooting laser beams, and then you shoot them again, and sometimes you might think you're playing a German battleship. Nevertheless, there is a 22.5 second reload on these guns when you use the reload module, and they are 16-inch guns. So the very quick reload, I think, makes up for any shots that are sometimes inaccurate, and that's something you have to take into account if you intend to complain about the accuracy on these guns. Their base reload time is 25 seconds. You get it down to 22.5 with that reload mod. They are 16-inch guns, 410 millimeters, so same size as the Amagi. Keep in mind that 410 millimeters is, practically speaking, absolutely no different than 406. They are only 16-inch guns, but they are quite good. They have a 20.1 kilometer range with my build, which, by the way, is just the standard Takagi accuracy build, using my standard battleship inspirations, Kondo as one, and Iakino as the other one for accuracy. 30-second turret traverse time. Maximum damage from the AP shells is 14,025 with gyrating drill bits, but one problem with gyrating drill bits is that it does cut down the speed of the ship quite significantly. The Iwami only has a top speed of, I think, 27 knots, and I've got it down to 25.4 with gyrating drill bits, which does make the ship feel kind of sluggish. Although the 880 turning meter circle is actually quite good for a battleship of this size. We've got battleships that are closer to 1,000. This is slightly less egregious. Rudder shift time is 18 seconds, which is well in line for a battleship. Concealment, of course, with the concealment mod and Kondo inspiration, is 12.9, so it's fairly stealthy. And I suppose the last real thing to talk about on it is the torpedoes. The Iwami has 2 torpedo launchers that each launch 4 torpedoes. They're positioned on either side of the ship at the back on the stern. You can sort of see the little step from the midsection of the ship to the stern. Torpedo tubes are on that little step, and they launch 4 IJN torpedoes that travel 15 kilometers and do 20,967 maximum damage. They also have a 67 knot speed, so they're not sluggish torpedoes like those found on, say, the German battle cruisers, but they do have an absolutely ridiculous torpedo detectability range by sea, which is 12.2 kilometers, meaning you can basically spot them from the moon when they're coming at you. So they are, in many senses, launch and forget torpedoes. I don't think you really want to be pushing into ships in order to brawl and make use of the torpedoes, because you could see there as I was switching to the torpedoes, the angles firing forward are what you might charitably call not good. You have to give an awful lot of broadside if you want to fire these torps forward. However, the angles while kiting away are pretty okay. But something to keep in mind if you are going to be kiting away in this ship, that little step on the back. You can see it there, it's got like a little box that extends out. All of those surfaces there are just basically shell catchers. If you point the rear of this ship at battleships, then shells are likely to hit those flat surfaces on the stern and arms, so they'll probably do quite a bit of damage. But otherwise, the Iwami is actually quite well armored. It's got 50 millimeters of deck armor, and it's got a very robust, I would say, belt armor that extends more than halfway up the hull. And then the rest of the hull has 32 millimeter platings for like a little bit of a sliver from where the belt armor ends to where the deck begins. The bow and the stern are both the standard 32, but all in all, it's reasonably tanky. And if you look behind the belt armor, the citadel itself actually has sloped sides. The side armor on those slopes is well above 32 millimeters, so it cannot be overmatched by anything. And I think the sort of turtleback effect that it provides actually makes the ship quite tanky, especially at closer ranges. I have been citadeled in the ship before, though, so it's not foolproof. However, I have given an awful lot of broadside to some battleships at closer ranges and just not been citadeled and instead been chunked for a bunch of armor-piercing damage. So it's sort of got a turtleback scheme going on, which does make it rather tanky. Now, on PC, I believe the Iwami can be built for secondaries because it has two sets of secondary guns. It has the 100 millimeter secondaries that are the same size as the guns on the Akizuki or the Kitakaze, and I believe the ship on PC gets the same penetration on those guns as those destroyers. That doesn't seem to be the case in Legends. These 100 millimeter guns don't seem to be able to pen anything, so practically speaking, they are useless except for starting fires. It does have 152 millimeter secondaries as well, which can, of course, penetrate armor values that you might come up against. But all in all, I don't think the secondaries are very useful. They have a base range of 6.3 kilometers, and you can probably extend that to maybe a little bit over 9 kilometers if you want to build for it. But I don't really see any reason to do that. I think you could run Kondo on this battleship instead of Takagi and play it as more of a brawler. You could certainly try the brawling skill to decrease the already very good reload time on the guns, and you could build for the secondaries if you want. I believe we might start a couple fires with them. You can see them in action now, firing against these ships, and by the way, we do have 4 kills here. The Suzuya is the only one left, so spoiler alert, we are going to end up picking up the Kraken. But I wanted to show you this game because it does highlight the accuracy of the Iwami and how good the guns are, and you can get to see the secondaries here in action a little bit. You'll see the small looking shells hit the Suzuya and do absolutely no damage, and then you'll see the larger shells hit the Suzuya and do at least a little bit of damage. Of course, we take the torpedoes there from the dead Zeton, which I probably should have known were coming, but they didn't sink us, so we should be all good. And by the way, the reason we got this good of a game is because of our positioning. If you were paying attention throughout, you will have noticed that we did not put ourselves in the same grid square as any other battleship on the team, and we got crossfires, so thus we have the Kraken unleashed. Not every game you play in this ship is going to be like this, of course. The accuracy is sometimes going to troll you and feel frustrating, so keep that in mind if you pursue this ship. But honestly, I think it's a decent reward for a campaign. I think I would recommend this one. But I still have more to play, I would say. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.